Hi, everyone.
Wow, nice background.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's a great conversation starter. Usually, like that's the city I'm from.
So you're being sponsored by Petronas, and Petronas doesn't even know about
Well, I like to think that I'm being sponsored by the city.
it. So for those who do not know, behind her you have the two Petronas towers that were the tallest buildings in the world for a very long time, until
That's right.
Dubai started spending a lot of money making sure that the title would go there. And yeah, so Dharrnesha, I would do a super quick introduction. I mean, the last time we ran out of time very quickly. We tried to keep the sessions to 20 minutes, as mentioned before. It's always a suggestion, but you may want to do your talk 10 to 15 minutes and have questions. This time, as mentioned during our private chat, try to focus on the YouTube audience, because we'll be using your great background and the great insights to post this clip online, and we'll be promoting that to teenagers from all around the world. But let's try to stay under the 20 minutes. So Dharrnesha is also a global shaper from the Kuala Lumpur hub, and I have never had the pleasure of meeting you in person, so just ask you to introduce yourself and what interested you in joining us here and having the session today.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for actually having me here today. Well, I think I work in the public policy space, so it's got a lot to do with politics, unfortunately, Marcelo. So I have to touch a little bit, but I try to make it as neutral as possible for my views. But yeah, so I work in the public sector, having background in the Central Bank and also formerly in the Ministry of Finance. And as you rightfully pointed, I'm also part of the World Economic Forum's Global Shapers hub here in Kuala Lumpur. So I'm now the impact officer. So basically what I'm doing is really trying to understand how the work that we could do, it's actually going to have proper impact in the community likewise here. So yeah, so that's like a brief introduction. And I think, so what I'll do is sort of bring everyone into a story that I'm going to tell. And then we'll try to synthesize some lessons from the story, and then I'll sort of open up for, well, hopefully an interesting discussion at the end of it. So basically, the story that I'm going to tell you is about an 8-year-old girl who lives in one of the most amazing capital cities in Southeast Asia. So the hint is already in my background. And so when she was 8, her classroom teacher did this exercise and asked everyone, so what is your ambition when you grow up? So she had naively said that she wanted to be the prime minister, although not as naive as a friend who wanted to be Barney the purple dinosaur. So basically, coming from the background that she was always told and conditioned that, you know, the best way to a future is actually to pick up STEM subjects, right? And that is going to open doors for you, very many doors and opportunities in life. And so she believed that, and she worked really hard on studying for all the subjects and doing really well. Coming from a working class family, and you know, she has this ambition of wanting to be a geneticist and at the same time pursuing her studies abroad in the United Kingdom. So coming from a working class family, the one way that's possible is to obtain a scholarship. And the one way to obtain a scholarship is to, you know, buckle down, study really hard, and get good grades. And that's exactly what she did. And when she left school, and that was at the age of 18, she did get scholarships to pursue her study. But there's a plot twist to that. So the scholarships were for social sciences, which is something very unfamiliar and, you know, just beyond her comfort zone. But at that point in time, she had to make a choice. And given the choices that she had at that point, so she made the decision to take up the scholarship and to pursue her education in social sciences. So she went ahead and did her degree in a double major, actually, in econs and politics. Upon graduation, she joined the Central Bank in Malaysia, where she was actually handling, I'd say, somewhat like a piggy bank for the East Asian countries. So when they run into a bit of a cash flow problem, they can tap into the piggy bank. Well, the total value of it is actually 240 billion US dollars. So it's a pretty large piggy bank, I'd say. And a couple of years later, in 2018, Malaysia had an historic general election where, for the first time in about 61 years, there was a new government that had taken over. So when that happened, she was recruited to join as one of the youngest advisors to then the finance minister. So this was exactly 8 years after she left high school. She found herself in a room in that position of being able to advise on policy issues to the finance minister of the country that she lives in, which is pretty amazing for someone who, well, I guess for someone who wanted to be prime minister when she was 8 years old. She was somewhat there, but in a different capacity, we'll put it that way, to want to influence and impact some sort of positive change. So, well, surprise, surprise, that person is me. And it's, I think, one thing that I want to tell about, sort of pick up from this story and share with everyone, a couple of lessons here and there that I have found about myself and learned, and something I'll continue learning. Hopefully it will benefit those who are listening in as well. So the first is, plans change, and that's okay. So be very, flow like the water, right? Be open-minded. Just go for whatever plans and opportunities that you have, because you don't know where you're going to end up. So that 17, 18-year-old me did not know that at that point, going down that route with that scholarship and in social sciences would land me now in this position. So yeah, be open to changes and embrace it. I think that's what I'd like to say as the first point. The second is, age is just a number. So don't let anyone tell you you're too young or you're too old or you're too anything in between. Because I have worked with 5 different generations in a single office in my position with the Central Bank and also in the Ministry of Finance. In fact, I had also worked with one of the, or rather at that point in time, the oldest Prime Minister in Malaysia. So he was 94 years old when he became Prime Minister. So again, age is just a number. Yeah, don't let anyone use that as a boundary. Just go for it. And finally, I think what's really important is perseverance. So throughout your whole journey, you're going to hear a lot more no's than yeses. And that's fine. Listen, acknowledge, and if you wish, ignore it. Just sometimes you don't need that kind of negativity, unless of course it's constructive or, something that you think could help you view different opinions, and sort of gauge things differently as well. So these 3 things have been something that I've carried with me for a while, but they're not something that I've learned when I was much younger, right? You learn that from your experiences. And I think the last point on perseverance, I learned it when I was much younger, when I was 17, 18, but I hadn't realized and I hadn't tagged it to, okay, this is actually perseverance. I'm going to go with what I have and make the best out of it, which I suppose there's a bit of an element of luck too, because it was something I truly enjoyed, and I found my passion in that. So it's fulfilling, it's demanding, but if you truly believe in it, I think it can take you, just a very, very long way. So for me, these 3 sort of lessons, I suppose, have been my wisdom. They have been my true north that will be guiding me for a very long time. But perhaps down the road, it might change. It might be something else too. And again, so that goes back to point 1. Plans change, everything changes, and it's fine. Just embrace it. So I think that's pretty much what I want to share, really. I think the point is, don't be too stiff or too rigid. There's so much more to life, so much more to experiences, and I'm so sure that everyone here who's listening in are, have so much more, so young, no matter what age you are. Just be open to that. I think that's sort of what I wanted to talk about. And I think I'm gonna, so I'm gonna just sort of open up for any questions or thoughts. but I'd like to sort of pose the first question, if I may. And I think this would be for like some of the people who are in the call right now. So imagine that you're waiting for the elevator and the door is open. And you walk into the elevator, the person who's standing next to you is the prime minister, the president, or the premier of your country. So you have exactly 30 seconds. Oh wait, no, this is 30. Yeah, you have exactly 30 seconds till you reach your destination. If there's one thing that you could pitch to that person in which you would like to see some change, what would that be? And it could be anything. Like, it doesn't have to be something super serious too. Just anything. So with that, I'm just going to open up the floor.
We may have to nudge a couple of the participants into asking.
Okay.
The one thing with the online format is that everybody is on mute, so it takes some time to get the answer right. And
okay.
Until any of them wishes to ask a question, my question, yeah.
This is Regine. Thanks so much, Darshna, for sharing your story. I think it's really
no worries.
cool.
It's Dharrnesha, but thanks, Regine.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just bad with names,
No worries. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks so much for sharing your story. I think it's really cool, like especially now you're working in a public policy and helping the finance minister, right? I think maybe my question, I mean, I have many questions for you, right? But I think maybe like one key question is what are some of the key learnings you have from your current role, and kind of the impact that you make from your current role in the ministry?
Okay. I think one thing that I've truly learned that's quite personal is time management and knowing exactly what's important to you, because this role that I'm currently in is very demanding, right? So I spent like 85% of my time at work. So it's very easy to sort of burn out. So it's very important for you to be aware of yourself and listen to your body to know, like, when to sort of take some time off and when, you can really just push ahead full steam. So that's sort of one thing. And the second is, so that don't be afraid to say anything. So I don't think that so basically you're going to miss 100% of chances that you don't take, right? So when you have that opportunity, that platform, and you have that that space for you to voice your opinions and also to sort of bounce ideas, go for it. Because it's not very many people that you find in that position or who's been able to be there and sort of contribute in that sense in whatever space that you're in. So I think I'm just keeping it quite generic in that sense. But I think the reason why I find it really fulfilling, and this is particularly to the role, is I was able to personally see through a health initiative that actually provided financial assistance for health emergencies for all the low-income Malaysians, and that was about 4.3 million people. And it was really amazing because I had the opportunity to work on it from the whole formulation of the policy, implementation, and all the way to public outreach. And it sort of came full circle when I actually met someone who had benefited from it. So that kind of keeps you going. So yeah, I think this would be the two things I'd say, like really time management and listening to yourself, and at the same time being able, like not being afraid to voice out and say things that you want to say and you think would make a difference. And I'm sure, Regine, you've also been in situations as such, and I think everyone here too.
So much for sharing.
No problem. Okay, so as Marcelo has suggested, I'm just going to randomly pick out a name to hopefully answer the question. Let's see. Can I probably get Wei Ling, if you have any thoughts?
She's also a global shaper, so...
oh, it's fine.
Who is a participant. I just want to make a comment on what you described. There's a term for that. It's called Asiaism. is when
Yes,
people say
yes.
you're too young for that, or when you were in a junior high, it was already working for 10 years. Like, who cares? Like, an opinion and a fact, they should of course be assessed according to the perspective of the person who's sharing the fact. But I am very, very careful not to ignore the opinion of a 13-year-old, because they may know way more than I do about Twitch. I mean, I was not aware of the existence of Twitch until last month, right? It's a company that was
But
ages ago, and I just totally missed out. And my background is in media, right? So if I have a 13-year-old telling me Twitch is really interesting, I am surely paying attention and checking it out. So ageism should be better known. Okay, it's you're not worth less because you happen to be younger. You just have a different perspective, which needs to be put into the medley of opinions and
Yep.
considered by everybody. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't want to interrupt your question to Wei Ling. I guess Wei Ling is not going to have an issue, sharing her opinion, but I don't know if she's still with us. Wei Ling, you there?
Yep, I'm still here. Hello?
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear you.
okay. Yeah, cool. So it's really interesting to hear about your background and policy making, because I did some in Singapore as well. So mine was more on animal welfare. So I was just wondering, what is the best way to effect policy change if you're from a more outsider point of view? That means you're just an average person of the public.
Okay, that's a great question, actually. So I think most countries or most authorities would have a public engagement, public outreach sessions. So two ways, I'd say, right? So one is a federal level. So for example, when they put out like surveys or like asking for opinions on like your social medias and whatnot, I would strongly recommend you to participate in that, because like from my experience, we take it seriously. So what we have done before is actually sort of trying to involve the people in sourcing for budget, like national budget ideas. So you could be person A, and if you have certain thoughts and whatnot, just put it in, just submit them, and someone actually looks at it. So that's certainly one way you could do that. And second is, I think, something that's more accessible generally, so without a schedule or anything, and that is through your local councillor and your member of parliament. Go to them, talk to them, highlight certain issues that's happening, concerns, and make sure that they take it up. So these are the two ways you could definitely at least put your voice forward, and also trying to highlight concerns and issues that would definitely be taken into account. So like and obviously the third being, go and vote in any elections that you have. Make sure you do that, exercise that right. So this will be the three ways I'd suggest.
Thank you so much. I think it would
No
be
problem.
really beneficial for youth, when they want to get more into like the advocacy and really effect change in their community. So thank you so much for answering the questions.
No problem. Okay, so Marcelo, I'm gonna just like ask for your sort of help to identify the participants.
Yeah, so just pick a few who came last time, because they know how the event works. We have
Okay.
Areg, who's living in London, but is originally from Armenia. Jessica, I believe she's originally from Singapore, but she lives in Australia, so she's pretty far out there. MDC is actually Mark from London. And he's German Spanish, like a really interesting mix. Then Regine is a global shaper from Singapore, as is Wei Ling. And we have Jan Brekke, who is a good friend of mine, who will be joining us for the next session after the break. And Tan, she is San Yan's sister, and both of them are based in Singapore. So Suli is 13, Sanyan is 15. They know the program really well. They're in fact the supervisors for the Singapore studio. So that's more or less the roundup.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, okay. I probably then would like, if I may, Jessica, if you have any thoughts on that question that I posted earlier.
Was that about the pitch if we were in the elevator?
Yes. Yeah.
If the person who was in the elevator is someone that is well known and I know I can rely on to create a change in the world, I guess I would ask them, I guess I would pitch an idea about how we could make the resources around the world all more equal, I guess. Because right now there's some places that have way more resources compared to other places that needs it but don't have it. And I guess I would, if I have enough research, I could pitch in an idea on how to balance it out so that everyone can benefit from it.
Yeah, I mean that's perfect. That's actually really great, and I like that you mentioned something really important in sort of your answer earlier, which is research. So it's really important to do your homework, know your facts when you you know, approach someone or trying to like propose an idea. So that's really great that you mentioned that, and it's also very relevant about resources because, you know, currently with the pandemic that's happening, the inequality across both advanced and you know, your least developed economies are growing at a huge rate. At the same time, you have a lot more people who will be going into poverty. I think an additional 100 million people would be going into poverty this year because of the pandemic, and most of them actually belong in the least developed economies, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. So it is a pressing issue, and it will continue being like an even more pressing issue. So yeah, it's great to hear that, Jessica. Maybe another one if I have time, Marcelo? Another person?
I have the break now, but I think we can continue. Your session's super interesting, and then it goes to YouTube for billions of people to watch later on. So please.
Okay.